Okay, so a lot of people talk about, I'm not a Trump supporter at all, right? And I don't hold it against anybody who does support Donald Trump. There's a lot of foreign policy decisions he made that I wasn't crazy about. But one that he did make that was great was him going to North Korea. I think it opened up the door for Moon Jae-in to go in that moment with him and Kim Jong on the line that separates North and South Korea. I thought that was amazing. It was like one of my favorite moments alive. I really did cry when that happened. However, he did get sabotaged, it seemed, Donald Trump, by Bolton and who else, the other egomaniacs, crazy warmongers that he had in his cabinet. He wasn't able to pull it off before. What gives a lot of Korean Americans hope that he might be able to do something like this again? I mean, he did do something that was special, but it seems like the American foreign policy apparatus, it doesn't make a difference who's president. They'll never put any push for any peace whatsoever. So what gives you optimism and why you want to have somebody like Donald Trump maybe have another crack at it again?
I want to touch on, to answer your question, first why Trump was sabotaged. Because, we all know 1989, we saw the fall of various communist governments, 1990, 1991, and it was assumed on the part of the US government that part of the process of these countries being overthrown was the market reforms. The market reforms would bring foreign investment, they'd bring the inflow of Western money and ideas, and then that would lead to the overthrow of communism. And it worked in Eastern Europe, and it worked in the Soviet Union, but in China, it had the opposite effect. And the Chinese Communist Party is stronger today than it was before. And in Vietnam, it had the opposite effect. And the Vietnamese Communist Party is stronger today than it was before. And there is a fear that if they can have a big moment of economic expansion in North Korea, that will make the government of North Korea stronger. And that was the fear. And John Bolton in particular, he was trying to sabotage the talks from the beginning. I mean, he was saying things like, Libyan options are on the table. The other thing that didn't get much attention in American media is that while the negotiation process was happening, the North Korean embassy in Spain was attacked by individuals linked to the CIA. And they went into the North Korean embassy and they stole a bunch of computers and they vandalized property. They were trying to undermine the talks. And that, Donald Trump now talks about how it seems like a lot of the people in his administration were working against him. So I think that is ultimately the issue. Now, what makes me think Donald Trump might be more willing to do that again is now Donald Trump, as a result of leaving office, January 6th and all that, he's got a pretty good idea who was pretending to be with him and who was actually with him. And so Donald Trump is more likely to have people in his cabinet who are on his side and not trying to sabotage him. But at the same time, underlying the assumption on the part of these folks who wanted to sabotage the talks was this assumption that North Korea doesn't have the right to pick its own government. And the assumption that the only reason we would want to have trade with North Korea is so we can help overthrow them. And we just have to get beyond that because the world is changing and there's a new economy in the world and the United States doesn't have the right to pick who governs the Korean Peninsula. So, and I think that more and more our leaders are going to have to come to terms with that. And that Donald Trump, when he says America first, he's saying, let's focus on our own problems here and let's not try to govern the whole world and tell every country in the world what kind of government they should have. Now, how sincere Donald Trump may be in saying that, I don't know. And let me add, this is a church, you obviously don't endorse any candidates, and CPI does not endorse any candidates either. We're an education project, we don't run anyone for office, we're not a political party. So we're gonna have to see how this election turns out. But my feeling is that Donald Trump saw that moment as one of the greatest moments of his presidency, and if he's back in, he's gonna try to have a lot more moments like that. And so I think there is hope that if Donald Trump is reelected, this will happen. So that's my thoughts.
There you go.
If I could just add, yeah, that was great. Yeah, just so everyone's clear, for those that are new, I say this often at church as Unification Community, Family Federation, we do not endorse any particular candidate for this upcoming presidential election. I actually believe whoever ends up becoming the president is the one that God will be forced to use, whoever it may be. And in that sense, God will work through with him. Yeah, at least we know it will be a him, right? So as of now, unless something radically changes. And the key thing for me, just for me, one critical aspect for us is Mother Moon has been given permission by Kim Jong-un to come visit North Korea. She's been given explicit permission to come, but she doesn't take that yet. That she hasn't done it yet, and the reason she hasn't is because she believes that she needs South Korea in a position to actually support her efforts. So when Father Moon went up to North Korea last time, he walked away with one of the victories was getting the families to come together, and this did happen. But the other two things that were started was he started Pyeonghwa Motors over there, a car company, so that they could accelerate their ability to manufacture cars, and other business aspects and peace buildings. And then the other thing was they wanted to bring all these blessed couples over there through the marriage blessing that our movement does. Bring them over there and have, Kim Il-sung offered one of his resort beaches for their honeymoon. For all these 30,000 couples that received the blessing of marriage from Father and Mother Moon, which that's what we're known for as a movement. But all of that fell through because South Korea did not want it to happen. The government intervened. And so all of that ended. So even though if Mother Moon were to go, and she doesn't have the support of South Korea, then it doesn't work. And so from our perspective, we believe it actually has to come from in-house. South Korea and North Korea need to figure this out. We can inspire them as the American government, maybe we can make a way for it, but North and South Korea are going to unite by Koreans. The key is Koreans. They have to love each other. And I believe Mother Moon can help with that, but we really have a lot of work to do with South Korea. So whatever president can help us with accomplishing that would be huge. And America's effort to love North Korea speaks volumes for South Koreans.
Awesome.